Hello, I'm going to be going over the running rough scenario for Aviation 430. So in this scenario, we had a recent trip where we had some engine roughness, and so we're concerned about our multi-engine airplane and that we might lose an engine at some point. It's just a good reminder that these things can and will happen to us. So in preparation for a potential failure, we're going to do a V-speed review, um, re-look at how to maintain directional control of the airplane, look at factors affecting VMC and how VMC is determined, and then how to identify and verify an inoperative engine, and then what is the fixing or securing process for that engine. So here are V speeds for Piper Seminole. So a lot of these you'll recognize from single engine operations, but I'm going to mainly focus on the things that are different for a complex engine and things that are different for a multi-engine. So as far as complex engines go, we have our landing gear retract speed of 109 knots. We need to bring the gear up before we're faster than 109. And then when we're extending it, we just need to make sure we're slower than 140, or if the gear is down, 140. And then as far as multi-engine goes, if we have a single engine operation, these three airspeeds at the bottom are going to come into play. So VMC, or red line, is the speed that we would lose directional control. So if we slow down to 56 knots, that operating engine on full power is going to roll the airplane over, and we're no longer going to be able to maintain a directional control. And then VYSE is commonly referred to as blue line, and that's the best rate of climb on a single engine. So it's typically what we want to pitch for when during single engine operations. And then lastly is the best angle of climb in single engine operations, VXSE. Okay, so if we do lose an engine and we're attempting to maintain directional control, according to the Seminole POH, they want us to maintain a 2 to 3 degree bank and then use the rudder to correct for directional heading. And so what this looks like in the airplane is a 2 to 3 degree bank towards the operating engine, also called raise the dead, because if we're banking toward the operating engine, the dead engine is going to get raised. And then our ball should be split like you see here in this diagram. They call that splitting the ball. And so in a G1000, it'll be a trapezoid that gets split. Okay, so now we're going to talk about factors affecting VMC and how VMC is established. So the higher you go, VMC actually is going to increase, which is good. And the reason for that is there's less air loft, and so that operating engine is going to be creating less force, and so it's going to be less likely to pull the airplane over on itself. And at the same time, stall speed is always going to be the same indicated airspeed. And so as you climb, the stall speed is going to actually be is going to happen first, so it's going to be a lower speed than VMC. So the airplane will actually stall before we lose directional control, which is a good thing. And yeah, so now we're going to talk about CRM aloft, which is how VMC is determined. And so this is 25-149. And so when aircraft manufacturers determine VMC, they need to put the airplane into this configuration. And this is just so VMC has an actual meaning other than changing different configurations. So it's the worst configuration possible. So it's if your critical engine has failed, which we'll talk about critical engines here in a second. The rearmost center of gravity is R. M is most unfavorable takeoff weight, which is typically light. Airborne and out of ground effect, self-explanatory. The landing gear is up, so landing gear not down. And then the operating engine is on full power. And then flaps are in a takeoff configuration for the Seminole, that's 0 degrees. And then trimmed for takeoff. Specifically talking about the rudder trim there. And so in that condition, that's the slowest that we can be and maintain directional control. Critical engines are determined by the past. So it's the engine that was caused the most adverse effect. And typically it's this engine over here because it's got a greater arm it's pulling for a variety of reasons. And so that past acronym, just briefly, is the P factor of that propeller. It's the accelerated slipstream coming over the wing, and it's the spiraling slipstream that's pushing against the rudder, and then the torque effect of the engines are both spinning in the same direction, and so they're going to pull the aircraft in the same direction that the engine failed in. Okay, so identification and verification in VMC. So this is what we call the drill. So boom, engine failure, immediately pitching for blue line. We'll go mixture rich, props forward, throttles forward, flaps up, gear up, fuel pumps on, and then identify, verify, and fix or feather. Great, so we're going to attempt to fix. We'll go through the fix checklist, and if we can't, then we're going to go ahead and feather that engine. And so these are just my school's procedures here, is what I have screenshotted. And so that's the throttle, and we identify, verify, and then close. Verify is just the instructor confirming that we actually have the right throttle, so we don't kill both engines. And then we're going to bring throttle back, prop back, mixture back, and then fuel pumps, fuel selectors, the cowl of the in-op engine closed, alternator magnetos, electrical load reduced, and engine instruments monitor our good engine. And then consider crossfeed, as our engine will only be pulling from one tank unless we do that. And here are my references. And just in closing, it's important to recognize these things that affect single engine operations, because they can and they do happen, and we need to consider that in our aeronautical decision making. What is safe, and then also how to mitigate these risks when we talk about threat and risk management. So we'll see you in the next video, and fly safe.